All right, Tom, we're back with the NL Central. Start with the Cubbies, 86.5. Last year, 84.5. Did not hit. Let me just go through a few things. Obviously, Bellinger gone. Kyle Tucker coming in's huge. I know we're all big Kyle Tucker fans, regardless of what team you like. Paredes didn't even make enough of a splash to even really talk about him. And then Matthew Boyd in the rotation-wise. So give me your initial thoughts on the Cubs, 86.5.
Hey, name 3 outfielders better than Kyle Tucker. All around better outfielders.
I love the dude, man. I love him so much. I couldn't believe it. They were talking about it for like a week before they signed him, and I was like, is this really going to happen? I don't know. I know everyone's like, well, the reason they didn't give up that much is because you still have to sign him. I'm like, yeah, but they can sign him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just the start of more to come. Because again, there's still a lot of names that are out there, and the Cubs might not be done. But I think looking at their win total, 86.5, I think there's a reason why it jumped as much as it did, and whether or not it's some teams lost players, some teams didn't bring in anybody yet. There's in St. Louis, there's a talk of Nolan Arenado going to be traded out of town, and I think hands down the Cubs are the best team in the division. I think their rotation is sneaky good between Steele and Talion and the I'm going to mispronounce his
Imanaga.
name. Yeah, thank you. They don't have guys like that in the Milwaukee rotation.
Yeah, bringing in Matthew Boyd was nice, too. I mean,
unbelievable.
He only came back at the end of the year, but
he gave up one run in the postseason. In the postseason. And I think he's full on back. It's a great signing. And I think that even if you look at the bullpen, this what is this guy's name? Porter Hodge?
Yeah, Porter Hodge is nice.
He's going to be a legend. I'm not a Cubs backer, but I think that they win this division with like 2-3 weeks to go in the season.
Being a Brewers guy, like what's your feeling on Counsell? Like for me, obviously to me it was almost an analytical, like he's good enough for 5 or 6 more wins, and he wasn't, but not 100% his fault. But like I love how pissed off he was at the end of the year.
I think you give Counsell the right players, and he can manage it. Where he failed in Milwaukee is that he didn't get the talent that the Cubs are about to bring in. If they don't bring them all in this year, they're going to bring them in next year, and even Counsell can't bang that up. Whereas Pat Murphy in Milwaukee, he was like a MacGyver. He was given like a Terang and a Frelick and all these guys. He's like, hey, here's a rubber band, a tin can, and a World War II veteran. And he's like, okay, we're gonna have to steal some bases. We're gonna have to do whatever. And Counsell like failed to do whatever it took given the talent he was given. I think he's now been given some talent here that even he can't bang it up. Yeah.
Well, let's go to the Brewers next. 83.5. Last year it was only 77.5, and they crushed it.
And they crushed
93 games. And, I mean, constantly losing guys. Losing Burns. Losing Woodruff was hurt. You know, Yelich gets hurt. Granted, it was later in the year. But, like, what do you attribute such a successful year to? I mean, the manager has a lot to do with it, obviously. Adames had a lot to do with it.
I think there's some amazing coaches in there as well. Like, all these guys that come in, even the McGill kid in the bullpen, like, he's a deadbeat, and he comes in, and all of a sudden Devin Williams is out with a broken back, and the guy comes in, and he's like an all-star closer. So I think there's somewhere in that front office and in the coaching system, they look and they say, this is what we can do. We're given this. Hey, this guy's only got one arm. Okay, great. Then he's going to be a pinch runner.
Right.
Awesome. You know, and it's just kind of like, this is what we have. What do we have to do to win? And that's why even 83.5, it's going to be another one of those like those Giants bets that we talked about on the last show, to where it's going to come right down to it. I don't see them winning 90-some games, 93 games like they did last year, but 86 and 76, I can definitely see that.
I agree with that as well. And then, I mean, if you look at this lineup, I mean, Garrett Mitchell had that huge homer. RotoChamp has him in the 4-hole. Do you buy that?
Absolutely. Yep, he is the real deal. His deal is injuries. If he stays healthy, he's that 5-tool stud.
Yeah, I think he had 8 homers in about 70 games last year. Which, you know, it doesn't equate to anything crazy, but in a team like the Brewers, if you got 3 or 4 guys hitting 25 homers, which they do,
and he can play the field, he can run, he can do it all.
And they're fast, man. Look at all these guys.
They do the small ball, they do the running, and they do have a collection of these 4 or 5-tool like players that can just get the job done.
Freddie Peralta obviously had a great year. They're saying Woodruff's going to be back in late May? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's still a maybe. They don't know because the injury was like he might never throw a pitch again. So I think they did the courtesy. They gave him the contract. Where they didn't really have to do that, but I think they're just hoping for the best. And obviously you lose Devin Williams,
but you're high on McGill though, right?
Yeah, and then just where all these other guys in the past, what they've been able to do is a guy's been like pitching 3 years in Japan, and they bring him in, and all of a sudden he can shut down the 7th inning.
Yeah,
and I don't know how they're doing it. It has to be somewhere in the coaching staff that they're able to break down and find the best qualities of each guy and say, do this and you'll be successful.
Let's talk about our favorite team to dislike, the St. Louis Cardinals. And the only reason we say that is we admire the hell out of their organization. But the funniest part is the Cardinals fans we have, it's like they're almost in a rebuild. And those are words we have never heard in our life. It's like the Steelers, like they just don't rebuild.
I cannot tell you the last time I was shocked when I saw their over-under at 76.5. Is that what you have?
76.5. 84.5 last year was pretty much in all year, and then they made a little bit of a run, probably mid-August to mid-September, and then came in just under the number. Losing Goldschmidt, say what you want about that. I mean, he was getting older. He's still a consistent player. Arenado being pissy in the clubhouse is not going to help things.
I think the difference is over the years you saw this. They bring up some guy named Chuck Schick, and you're like, this guy, who's this guy? And all of a sudden he goes 3 for 4, and he just has a month where he has like 10 home runs or steals 10 bases. But these guys, I think with the exception of the Burleson kid, like the Victor Scott came up and he's been trash. Jordan Walker hasn't even been close to what it was advertised.
This is arguably the worst Cardinals lineup I've seen in a while, projected lineup.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I do like some of these guys like Mason Wynn and, but I mean, Brendan Donovan's hitting 4th. I don't know, man.
This is where you throw in the clip where you're like, I haven't heard of half these guys. This guy here is dead.
And Sonny Gray can be good, but he's your one, and then you go to, I don't even know how to pronounce, I've never known how to pronounce Fetty's name. Is it Fetty? No, Eric Fetty.
Eric Fetty.
Maybe bounced around a bunch with the White Sox a little too, and the Reds. He's your number 2?
Yeah.
Oof, man, I don't know, man, about this.
And Mikolas, whatever, yeah, it's.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be all right. But anyways, okay, so that one's probably going to be on my lock list. I don't know about you.
It's a fun lock too. It's a fun lock, given your fandom and my fandom. Yeah. It's a fun lock to just.
Now I have it in all honesty. I have taken their over before. Like
Oh yeah.
Sometimes gambling gets in the way. Like when I knew the Cubs were going to be terrible in the 2012, 13, 14, I had no problem betting on the Cardinals over. Cincinnati Reds, a team I think we both like, 78.5, which is deceiving to me. I was predicting that around 83 or so. 81.5 last year did not hit. Just had too many problems. Give me your initial thoughts on the Reds.
I like the over. I think the lineup is actually awesome. I think any of those guys can mash. I mean, the De La Cruz is a phenom. What did he steal? Like 187 bases last year. It was nuts.
To me, that's a very exciting lineup. Speed, a good amount of power in there too. I mean, this projected lineup, 8 guys, double-digit homers. I mean, I know Dodger fans crapped on Lux quite a bit at the end there, but if he's your 9-hitter,
that rotation as well is sneaky. Not like great, but sneaky good.
It is, and then they bring in a guy like Brady Singer, who's not like overpowering or anything, but he's pitched a ton of games in the last 5 years. Hunter Green he's a superstar, huh? Where's he going to go? And how much money in the auction drafts of fantasy is he going to go for? With the strikeouts and everything? Oh man.
I don't know. I think a first look at the rotation, you're like, I don't know. But I think that is a very. The lineup is a potent lineup, to where even if like some of those pitchers give up like 4 runs and 5 1/3 or something like that, that lineup is good enough to overcome that.
I think they out-hit every other team easy. We just talked about the Cardinals lineup. The Brewers have lost some guys. I mean, you like the Cubs more than I do this year lineup-wise, but the Reds lineup, I don't know. Oh, we forgot the biggest thing. Another guy we love, Terry Francona, the new manager. How amazing is that? I mean, like, a really good friend of mine has been crapping on David Bell for years. But yeah, you bring in Francona on a team like that, I think that's, I don't know, why is that so low? I'm going to say that gets closer to 80 by the start of the season. I like that one. That's going to be on my list. Let's finish off the Pirates. We don't have to spend too much time on the old Pittsburgh Pirates.
The only way that they are ever going to get back to where they once were in like the 70s is if all of their prospects catch on. They've got a couple of nice pieces there, the Reynolds kid and the O'Neal Cruz. But like Cabrine Hayes, how many times have you seen me draft him in fantasy saying, this is the year? And now he's down to like their 7th or 8th hitter.
Man, he's constantly hurt. It's crazy. Everybody got pretty excited with Paul Skeens last year. I'm sure he'll be fine. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, he overpitched. And they kind of shut him down there at the end. I think he'll be fine. He seems like the type of guy that's going to be a gamer.
That's what they said about Matt Harvey.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's popping in the ESPN, the nudie mag, and then it was all over.
He's also enjoying the New York nightlife, where Skeens has got a nice little piece at home already. I think he's good. She's funny. She's cute. You know, don't screw that one up, Paul. All right, well, let's get our 2 locks in.
The Cubs over is my lock. I think a lot of people are going to see that number, and it's just going to be too high for them. But I think when you start looking at the other teams in the division, like far and away the best. And just to even things out, the Cardinals under is going to be such a fun lock for me as well. That I honestly think I commented in a video of yours where I was like, there's no way the Cardinals under would hit 2 years in a row. And I looked up at that lineup and I'm like, it will. And it's going to smash. And it's actually going to be really interesting to hear Cardinals fans this year. How soon did they give up? Or do they just not say anything at all? Because it's going to be such a shock to their system.
And if you had to pick a wild card, who do you like?
Well, the Pirates under. If it's even close at the trade deadline, they're not doing anything.
I'm gonna go Reds over 78.5. I'm gonna go Cardinals under with you 76.5. And I think my wild card is actually gonna be the Cubs under. Yeah, I don't know, man. I was so high on them last year and the way they came out of the gates, and then I don't know. I like that you're taking the over though, because you know your shit. Before we wrap it up, let's Bob Uecker passed away today. A guy who meant a ton to both of us for different reasons. To you, he meant more heartfelt stuff. To me, it was major league. But any good Bob Uecker story? Anything fun you want to say about him?
We could totally kill your podcast right now and have me say who. To me, and I always said this, moving out to LA, I understood why Los Angeles Dodgers fans loved Vin Scully. The dude painted a picture, right? I just listened to the game. It was like, I remember when Chris Capuano for the Brewers is throwing a game against the Dodgers, and Scully's like, Capuano, which is Jewish for good son, goes back, throws the ball, it's a curveball, in for a strike. It just, the way he was great, but he was no Bob Uecker. And maybe I'm biased because I was in Milwaukee, but the Brewers were so bad for so long, and he was just so entertaining and so funny. And obviously Major League took him to another level. Mr. Belvedere, the Miller Lite commercials took him to another level. But the Brewers stunk. And I mean really, really, really stunk from 1993 to about 2007-ish, where they started showing some promise. And you would still listen to the game because it's like the middle of June and you're driving out to go do some fishing or something with your buddies. And I remember in the late 90s, they're building Miller Park. So Big Blue was the crane that was out if you were looking outside of center field in County Stadium. There's the big crane, and the Brewers are getting crushed by the Tigers or something. Because I think they were still in the American League at that point. So the Tigers are giving it to him 8-1. And he's talking to the color guy, and he's saying, the guy's asking him hey, what would it take for you, Uke, to call a game from the top of the crane? And he's like, well, I don't know, give me a couple of Miller Lights and we'll see how it goes from there. And everyone's out laughing in the cars, we're listening. And all of a sudden he's like, I'll call the whole game up there if that's what it takes, or, whatever. And all of a sudden the other guy is like, well, what happens if, I suppose what happens if you're up there and all of a sudden you need to use the can? And he's like, well, look out below. And he was just so quick in answering these questions, and it was just random stories like that got you through the 8-1 loss. You wouldn't watch it on TV; you would just listen to him, and he was just. He also had a stalker, which was great, and I was like, "Oh man, huh? No! It was that's when I used to always think that having a stalker would be awesome. Like, oh man, here's a girl that just wants to sleep with you at every step of the way, and then we saw who the stalker was, and it's like, yeah, that sucks. You don't want a stalker.
No, that's no good.
She was pretty rough. She was some cut of hay Cudahy rough. Cudahy,
yeah.
Wisconsin rough.